test. 7, 8. What is that noise? That's Harmon Quest. What's a Harmon Quest?
I'm gonna cut it out, but for the testing of the video.
An advertisement is playing. I've never had Twitch do that before.
Me either.
Okay. So, boom, got it. Leveled up. I'm the best ever at games. Oh, that's my voice. Boom, got it. Leveled up. This is the best podcast ever.
We just have to make sure everything works.
Yeah.
And when our friend comes on, if he does come on, we'll have to test it again.
Welcome to the We Play Games Pewdcast.
Pewdcast.
The Pewdcast, yeah, that's what they're called, right? So, pretty much what we do is we play games and we talk about stuff. I've leveled up. I think I'm at level 275 right now with my other character, with my warlock. So I decided to start it again with my hunter and start grinding with him. I probably shouldn't use my super right there because probably wasted
might have wasted that.
But it's okay. My name is Samurai Clyde.
And I'm Chelsea Face.
And thanks for joining us. We have been gone for 2 weeks. We've done one episode of this before, and we try to make it a weekly thing, but unfortunately last week we couldn't do it. That's only because we were busy at a tournament.
Yeah.
So a nice fighty
thingy.
Kung Fu tournament.
Not Kung Fu.
Not Kung Fu, but
karate.
Kicking, punching tournament. So yeah, I'm actually quite proud because I'm actually the owner of a martial arts studio in my town, and we went to a regional tournament where like 4 different states came together and competed, and everyone in my studio placed.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
That's
like
awesome.
That's a big deal. So I'm quite proud of everyone. I think I had one person come in and get gold and 2 bronze. Then I had one person get a bronze and one person get a silver. And myself, I got 2 silvers and a bronze.
Yeah.
So, that close to being grand champion myself, I'm kind of mad. I feel like I was kind of cheated in some ways, but that's typical whenever you get that close to winning something. Those kinds of feelings seem to come up. And that kind of brings us to a good point. But first, do you have anything you want to add about the tournament or the black belt test or anything like that?
Well, since I am a member of the studio, I went to the tournament, and like we talked about it already that we didn't like how they ran the black belt test this time. Mm-hmm. They were testing out a new method, and I didn't like how it worked out. I think they separated the groups, and it made it really hard for parents to watch, and it also made it really confusing when it came to breaking boards, and I don't think it worked out good. But pretty much what they did was anyone who was testing for a black belt, if you're not a black belt and you're testing for a black belt, you're in one group, and if you were already a black belt testing for a higher rank, you were put in another group. But what that made was that made it very difficult to watch, which they had 2 different judging panels, so it wasn't like the examiners had to split their attention between the 2 groups. But I feel like it was better for the examiners, but worse for the people who were there to spectate. Yeah.
So.
And I mean, that's not as important, I guess, but I was more annoyed by the breaking portion. Yeah. Because the ones who were testing for their black belt, they were breaking way before the other ones were, or the other way around. Either way, it was just a time whenever everyone was like really paying attention, and there was a lot of loud stuff going on over here, and then over here they were trying to focus on something else. So I feel like it could have been very distracting for someone. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really like that portion, at least.
Well, being one of the examiners, well, conductors for the test, I'm not an examiner, but being one of the conductors for the test, which I have been for the past 2 or 3 tests, I've helped conduct them, and I can say that, like, it was super distracting to have 2 different tests going on, and like everyone's having a mini heart attack behind the scenes anyways, because it's so fast. Like, everything's happening so fast, and people are coming around like, go here, do this, do that, you know, like, and you're trying to do the best you can because you want to give these people the best experience that they can possibly get, because these people have put years and years into getting to this moment, and
nervous.
Not to mention it takes a good amount of money to get there too. So I mean, you've put a lot of time, a lot of energy, effort, money. There's a lot of dedication to get you to this point. So the last thing you want as a conductor is to mess that up for somebody. And then when you have that, the hectic, how hectic the test is times two of those tests going on, it just makes everyone freak out. And
it didn't really save that much time, because I think that's what they were trying to do, was save a couple hours, and it was only like an hour or 45 minutes shorter.
It wasn't even that much shorter in my opinion.
Yeah, it didn't help at all with the timing, and it was really not helpful. I just don't like it, and I really hope that they
I hope they change it.
Reevaluate how they're going to do that.
But they change stuff all the time. I'm a big fan of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's just kind of how I think. But I mean, I can totally relate, because they've been changing stuff ever since I've been a member. They've been changing stuff all the time. When I tested for my second degree black belt, I thought they were going to let us, kind of like how they do now, they let you choose what you're going to, what kind of breaks you're going to do, right? So you can go up there and be like, my name is blah blah blah, and I'm going to do this break, and this break, and they go, okay, and then you display them, and you know, they judge you on it. Whereas but what they did at my second degree is I had this whole thing set up. I was going to do like a knee break, but immediately, without putting my foot down, go into a back kick. So it was like a straight from a knee to a back kick. And then I was going to do a running jump. I was going to have John kneeled down, and I was going to do a jump spinning back kick over him, breaking a board on the other side. And so I like practiced it for weeks, like getting it ready, perfecting it, having all this stuff. And it was a really cool break. And then I got there, and they were like, nope, you're gonna do this, this, and this. And and it was not at all what I
bet it was heartbreaking.
It's not at all what I had practiced or what I was ready to do.
They should have warned you.
And one of them was a speed break with a Kwansu, which uses the side of your hand that your thumb's on. And a speed break means you can only hold the board with one hand. So you literally have to hit it so fast it breaks out of just the sheer momentum of your hand slamming into the board. It's a very, very difficult break. And me being, I think I was 18 maybe at the time, I hit that board so hard it didn't break. And I couldn't use my hand for the next few weeks because I just had blood blisters like all up and down my fingers from how hard I hit that board.
I don't like the speed breaks. I feel like I've only seen 2 people do them.
Yeah. I feel like it has a lot to do with your body mass, and people who don't have a lot of body mass are at a disadvantage when it comes to speed breaks. It doesn't seem like
a very practical break, because I don't know. Like I said, I've only seen like 2 people do it, and they were both about
beefier guys.
Yeah, really big, beefy guys. And I've never seen a girl, a younger person. I've never seen an older man. I've never seen a younger boy. I've never seen anyone break it other than those 2 men who were probably just constantly working out. And
well,
I don't know. Good job.
Well, I was trying to shoot a projectile and it didn't work. So.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I just didn't like it. I feel like the tournament went way better. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I competed. I was really nervous, and I try not to think about it too much because I do get nervous the more I think about things. So I just kind of avoided it the weeks up to it.
Yeah, but I'm really proud of you.
I got second sparring. Yay!
Yeah.
I was expecting to do way better in my form, but I froze up and totally screwed that up, and had to restart, and it was just a big mess. But I did know the form. It was just nerves.
It's a learning experience.
Yeah, and I'm not that mad about it. Like, I was proud of myself. Like, I didn't expect to do any placing at all, and I was going to be okay with that. Of course, it would have been great if I had, but I wasn't going to cry about it. I'm not a very competitive person.
Right.
So I wasn't going into this being like, oh, I got to get first and everything. I went into it I just want to do this and see
Oh.
how it turns out.
Excuse me.
We're trying to get a friend to join us, so we're just holding this by ourselves until he either messages us back or...
He says he'll be on in 5, so
Yeah.
If he comes on, he comes on. But anyways, let's see. I took one of our. It was you and 2 other students of mine. One of them is a black belt, and I shouldn't really call her my student. She's more of my helper because we grew up training together.
You help each other.
Yeah. She's the same rank as me, and she grew up going to the same studio that I went to, and now that I have my own studio, she just comes up there and trains in our studio and helps out. And she got first in sparring, which isn't that right?
Yeah,
she got first in sparring,
and then 2 or 3 other medals.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm super stoked.
Yeah.
About her performance. I feel like mine. It's so hard. I'm kind of conflicted on it because I feel like I literally gave it everything I have, and I look back at the videos of my performance. I'm like, I literally don't know what I could have done to make that better. Like that's probably the best I've ever done those forms.
I guess I'm not a very good person to ask, but I try to be as objective as possible because I know that you need the criticism.
Right.
So I try to be really negative, I guess. Like
Right.
Constructive, I guess.
Right.
When I record you or when I watch you. But I did record both of your forms that you competed in. And the one guy who was doing, quote, air quotes, better than you, for one, his dad was one of the judges, okay? I feel like that was totally unfair. But beyond that point, okay, let's just pretend he wasn't giving him super high scores, which he was. He was way too fast on the form that I feel like you should have won. You should have won
Weapons.
your knife. Yeah, you should have won the knife form. You really, really should have. I watched every inch of y'all's forms. You should have won that one. Okay, maybe he earned the regular form. I don't know. Y'all are pretty close on that one. Yeah,
he
that
just
was
flew
pretty...
off the side.
But the weapon one you should have won. He was going 90-0. You couldn't see his form at all. He was just so fast. I guess he was nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't even I feel like they weren't really watching him during that.
And then the same thing with the sparring. Like there's some stuff on the sparring. Like they're always, every time that they stop, they're supposed to call for a point. And there was a point where I kicked him over, like I kicked him down, and they picked him back up, and then they didn't call for a point.
Yeah.
And then they just kept going, and I'm like, okay, he ground. I should have gotten a point for that.
And
but...
I'm not being a sore loser. Like if you had lost, you lost. Like you did technically.
Yeah, I still would have lost, but I wouldn't have lost as bad.
There was a point when he did that in another match too, and if he hadn't have done it in another match, I would have been like, oh, okay, it was just a mistake. He fell, blah blah blah. People fall all the time. Things happen. But he did that in another match where he pretended his shoe was messed up. Like I don't know. I don't know if he was using that.
Sparring gear is kind of weird sometimes.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I feel like it felt kind of like that was his calling card because the other guy should have scored a point too when that happened.
Yeah.
So that was twice that he should have had a point called on him when something with his shoe happened. You know, how convenient, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe that's just bad luck, but I just feel like the guy, he just had too many things going for him. And I guess that's just how it goes at tournaments like that. He got lucky, but I feel like you should have gotten first in weapons. I really do.
Yeah, but, anyways... PewDiePie. Segues and stuff. They're fun.
We're a little late on this one.
Yeah, we're a little late, but I do want to talk about it. We want to talk about it from a different angle that I've been seeing a lot of people. Because a lot of people, they've talked about, is PewDiePie racist and blah, blah, blah. And if you care about my 2 cents, I don't think he's racist. I think he screwed up. I think he made a major screw up. And I think the best thing he could have done is just apologize and and just not talk about it, which he has talked about it a little bit, which I probably wouldn't do if I were him. But the way that he has talked about it has been very respectful, even to the people who are calling him out. He's been very respectful to them. He's like, I'm sorry. I know what I did.
Out of a shitty situation, I think, he handled it way better than I probably could have.
Right.
And I'm not saying he's a saint for that, but...
Oh, no, I mean, like I said, I'm not going to stand here and defend what he did. Especially, it happens all the time. People will say that in streams all the time, but they don't have as many eyes on them as
he's such
he does. He's an influence.
Yeah, he has such a big influence, and it was totally bad.
And he's trying, over the past few years, he's been trying to, make his stuff more towards adults. Like, he's trying to grow with his audience, because I think he realizes that when he started to really cultivate his audience, they were all pretty much 12, 13-ish. Yeah. Maybe 16 at the most. And now that he's gotten really big, they're all getting up there into their 20s and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's trying to grow with that. And I think that's cool, but I think he kind of he got too comfortable. Which
I don't think that it's the comfortableness. I think with the streaming, I don't think he should have been streaming to begin with. Streaming like we're doing right now. But we don't have a time. Well, if this got to the point, if we got so popular that people, it became a job, I would definitely treat it as a job and put in the time to edit it and put in the work to make it a more condensed and easy to digest thing. But right now, this is just for fun. Yeah, him being such everyone's got their eye on him right now, especially after that whole Disney thing. If he is going to be streaming, he's got to be super careful. And anybody is... And I've heard this argument. I've heard, well, if the word's in your vocabulary, you're going to use it. I hate to say this, but Tourette's people... They would not cuss if they had never heard those words, okay? If you have ever heard the N-word, it's in your vocabulary. It doesn't mean that you say it, but it's in your brain.
I agree with you.
It is possible for that word to come out of your mouth. Not meaning that that's okay.
I agree and I don't, but...
I totally think if you've heard a word in your life, then it's in your vocabulary. I mean, just because you don't say it...
That's true, but it's harder for things to slip out if you don't say them all the time. But
that doesn't mean that he says it all the time.
Yeah.
And maybe he does. Maybe that's something he says every day. Maybe he's just a really bad person and we don't know. But also...
I don't think that makes you a bad person necessarily, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I've watched videos from his friends on YouTube, like Cinnamon Toast Ken and a few others, and they were like, it's shitty. He did something very stupid.
Right.
And I am very, a little embarrassed myself because... blah, blah, blah. But they said, I have known him this many years, and I have never even heard him get close to saying that word.
Oh, hey!
Hey!
How's it going? Cadmium? Is that your name? Cadmium?
Yeah, Cadmium.
Okay, cool.
Hope you weren't talking dirty words about me.
No, not at all. We were talking about dirty words, though. Let us check real quick to make sure that you're coming through.
So keep talking.
So keep on talking.
All right then. So what have you guys been?
Oh no. We're playing Destiny 2, and I've only gotten to Titan. But if you want to join, I will send you an invite real quick, and we can do some stuff on Titan. Cool.
Which character are you using?
I'm using my hunter I just made so that I can get some better stuff for it. Using my hunter I just made. That's my voice.
Yeah, that's it. Echoed for a second.
Yeah. That's my voice. There you go. He's coming through. He's good.
Good stuff.
Okay, so back to what we were talking about. The N-word. The most fun word. No, that's not right. But it's the worst word you could ever say in streaming, which is why a lot of people don't, and they just say the N-word instead when referring to it. So
true.
We're pretty deep in this conversation. But let me get back to the point that I was about to make, which is a lot of people have been coming at this as how does PewDiePie stand in like what kind of person is he, and this, that, and the other. And we've already had our little discussion about that. But what I want to know is a lot of people, when they talk about this, they say, "Oh, he used a hard R," right? It's like, "Oh, he used this. That was a hard R." Do you think it matters at all if you use a hard R or not, or do you think it's the same word? Do you think that has any context to what just happened? Like, if he wouldn't have used a hard R, it would have changed what it was in some way.
I think the hard R does make a difference at the end of the day in some respect, because I mean it's a very hot topic word as it is, but I feel like at the end of the day it would have been seen as offensive by some people regardless of how he said it. You think
it would be found offensive by less people if he would have used an A instead of an R?
I think maybe, percentages, maybe it would have been a little bit less people, but at the end of the day, I mean, it really seems like people are latching on to more that he said it and less on what he meant by what he said anyway. So I don't think it would make a ton of difference for him. I think socially and publicly wise.
I think the context has a lot to do with it, because like, take for instance Louis C.K., right? He has a fantastic bit where he just uses that word over and over and over again, but no one really cares. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that get offended by it, but at the end of the day,
it wasn't on the news.
It wasn't a big deal. And I think it's because it was very self-aware. Like, that comedy bit... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, because Louis Black and, other comedians like him, they're not just comedians, especially in this day and age. They're more social commentators now.
Yeah.
Where Felix or PewDiePie, or whatever you want to call him, he's not... I don't feel like he's at that status that he can just say whatever he wants to.
Well, what I'm saying
is, we don't view him in that way.
I think the difference is, like, Louis C.K., I mean, he crafted that joke. He sat down. He sat down at a chair or something, I'm guessing. And I don't know, he might have been standing, but he put a lot of mental capacity into sitting there and going, okay, I'm going to use this word, but I'm going to use it in this way, and I want to make people feel this way when they hear it. Whereas with PewDiePie's instance, it was like a thing that slipped out. Oops, that's in your vote, like, oh, I just say that,
I think... I do think the ER is important, because if people hadn't even mentioned it, it wouldn't be important. But they brought it up.
Right.
So that means it means something to people, making it important. Now, that doesn't mean that, he's like, if he had not said it, it'd be less points or whatever. I think it's still just as bad,
Right.
But the fact that people even brought it up,
well,
I think that makes it important to some people, and
to some people,
and just like the Indian casino situation, there's some people who have said that that happened a long time ago, I'm not offended, and then other people are getting offended for them.
Right.
I'm assuming that that's also happening in this situation.
Right.
Like,
well, the thing. When it comes to really bad words like that, right?
Yeah.
For one, I work in communications. Like, my job is communicating to a whole bunch of people on a daily basis. And when I have to do stuff like that, I have to have a filter, because I'll admit that I say things in my daily life that I cannot say at work, I think everybody does. But I other people's opinions. Because my opinion is not the one and only opinion. And who's to say that it's right? But in my opinion, words are just words. The words don't have power unless you give them the power, right?
Yeah.
The only way a word can hurt you is if you let it hurt you. I find intent way more hurtful than words.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's important. Like, his intent. Like, if you watch the clip, which I guess I should watch the whole entire stream just to know the reference, because you know, maybe it was a black character that he was talking to. Do you know?
I don't know for sure, but
Yeah,
if it was, then maybe it was deeper than we're thinking. And if it wasn't, then maybe it was just one of those words that he just went to for some reason. Like he could have used a number of really bad words.
I'm guessing that
is the one that his brain chose.
I think it was just in the moment. There's a lot of gunfire, and I have never played PUBG, but I've heard that it's very stressful.
Oh, it gets intense, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing like he's like, I want to make this stream.
Some.
He's trying to push his stream. He's been trying to push his stream for a while, and he's like, okay, what's the funniest, most shocking, like what's going to get the most attention? Like it's one of those really stupid split-second decisions that your brain makes. He's like, this word, and then you're like, oh god,
I don't.
Why did I do that?
I mean, he could have easily done it on purpose, but I don't think he did.
Yeah,
at all. I think that.
Now I will say, if he said it just for the shock value, for me that kind of devalues his. I don't. It kind of devalues his character for me.
Well, I don't think it was a conscious decision. I think it's a subconscious decision. That's when I was saying that. It's just kind of like, you ever just say a joke, like you just start saying a joke, and then halfway through the joke you're like, why did I even start this joke? This isn't even the right group of people to tell this joke to. Like, what am I doing?
I guess that's a possibility that he could have done that, but I personally don't think, whether I'm right or wrong, I don't think that's what happened. I think that he might have said that word maybe once or twice in his life, whether it was meaning to be offensive towards someone or not. He's heard it before. He's possibly said it before, and it just came out. Like,
right.
I think, because I've said things like that before, and I'm just like, well, that's not who I am, but it just came out of my effing mouth.
Yeah.
So.
And I think another thing that's a big part of it is that Felix, he wasn't. Or at least as far as I know, he wasn't really born in America, right?
No,
he was born in Sweden.
He doesn't have that American background where, we know, we've kind of been raised in this culture of, what's racist and what's not.
Yeah, he may not have that.
Racist the way they are.
Yeah, he may not have that. It's really bad. In
a lot
of
places they don't see that word as being as bad as we do in America because they don't have the cultural subtext.
Like in Japan, they think that blackface is funny, because they don't understand where it came from and like how the culture of America and
they
why
have a
so
blackface festival, don't they? I think yeah. I've seen
for
that.
For them, it's not anything racist. It's just for them it's comedy,
right?
Because they didn't have that culture that went along with creating it.
That's really important. A lot of people don't think about that, and I'm sure he understands that it's bad, but he was not raised breathing down his throat bad.
And that brings us to another good point, which is critical thinking. I don't think that many people have this, and I think it's something that we should push more in school. Like, it's just a really good life lesson to be able to separate yourself from the issue that you're talking about.
And I'm glad you bring up schools, because that's something I was going to say, is that because I worked with children from all over the county where I work at,
right?
And I see all different kind of skill levels, but the main thing I see, especially from the poorer schools, is that there's nothing about any kind of critical thinking. It's always about making those test scores, and test scores are important no matter what, but I just feel like American schools are really letting down their students. In any kind of critical thinking. They just want the answers given to them all the time.
Oh, yeah. And that's, I talk with Chelsea Face about this all the time, because I think about the people that I grew up with in school, where I went to school, and I remember the people who literally did nothing but the bare ass minimum to scrape by, and then they just... and then they would just go home and, I don't know, do drugs or something. I don't know what they did when they got home, but I know for a fact some of them did, but that's a different story. So I remember these people, and I remember them just doing the bare minimum, scraping by, and then continue, like, going home and just doing the same thing, right? Would never put in any effort to anything. And what do those people do as adults now is they just scrape by. Like, they work at, like, I don't want to work here factory, or, like, just...
and I've worked with a ton of people like that at Amazon.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing wrong. I know people who love being cooks, right? And so they are just happy as can be being a fry cook or whatever. And I'm happy for that. I think that's fine. But, you know, I know that there's some people that they have the desire to do more, but they just have no drive to do anything but
or they think that they deserve it already and they can't understand why they haven't been given it.
Yeah, that's a good point too. But when I talk about critical thinking, I'm talking about more of the idea that people see the world's problems through their own view, through their own lens. And it just doesn't work like that. Everyone thinks they're an expert at everything, right? You know, you get people, I mean, this is why people aren't getting their kids vaccinated. They think they know what's best, and they so don't. Like, I don't even know what to say to people like that. Like, the thing is...
The only thing you can do is let their children get sick. You cannot, I mean, that's really cruel. It's just like any other weird thing. The kid's gonna have to suffer for the parents to realize how fucking stupid they are. Because I know someone personally who is not getting their child vaccinated, and this person had cancer when they were born. This person's been really sick most of their life, and they are sitting there with no scientific proof and not getting their child vaccinated. I'm just like, the only thing that you're gonna get is your child dead.
Well, back to, and this relates to the critical thinking topic because you like people look at things through their own lens, right? My family's really bad about this. It's like they would probably be for vaccinations because in their eyes they would say, well, I got vaccinated and nothing happened to me, therefore nothing could ever go wrong with a vaccination. And I mean, they're right. Like, I agree with them, but for different reasons, because and I'm trying to think of another example that homosexuality, right? They're really redneck. Like, my family's super redneck. But they are very pro homosexuality. But I have a cousin who is gay, right? And I honestly believe, I really do believe this, I believe if I did not have that gay cousin, my family would not be as nearly for homosexual rights as they are.
Yeah.
Because my family is very simple. They think like, oh, gays are on my team, therefore I root for gays. Like, that's kind of as far as their thinking goes.
No, I understand.
You know?
Well, because a lot of people have a confirmation bias where they're like, oh, well, I know a cool gay person, or oh, I know a nice black person, you know, and from there that they think they are. And sometimes, you know, confirmation bias can go good and it can go bad. In my opinion, but I think that it's a bad line of thinking either way, whether it leads to good thinking or bad thinking. Just because you're not doing critical thinking.
I mean, it's
saying,
annoying.
Oh, this happened to me. It must happen to everybody.
It's annoying, but it's not bad in my opinion until it's dangerous, and it becomes dangerous when, like, people's lives are in danger, like the vaccination thing, or like, or you're taking people's rights away. Like, that's when it becomes dangerous, in my opinion. And I mean,
it's
like,
a road to dangerous thinking, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, oh god, I'm dead. Oh gosh, I suck. What was I saying? Blah, 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 blah. Dangerous thinking, because there's 2 spider tanks.
And the life sucks class that we were talking about.
Oh yeah. Chelsea and I were at lunch today. Chelsea Face and I. And we were having lunch, and I said there should be a class taught in high school that calls Nobody Gives a Shit. Like, that should be the name of the class, and you should have to take it your senior year in order to graduate.
Like, we've gotten rid of home ec, okay? You've got YouTube and Google. You can look up how to cook an egg. You can look up how to sew. You can look up how to write a check. We don't need that anymore. Now we need a class it could be like a VOTEC type of 30-minute, hour-long class. Every senior has to take it. Nobody gives a shit.
And they just do nothing but they like
role play.
They like work in a like one day they come in, they work in a factory, and then another day they come in and they work behind the counter at a Waffle House. And like another day, they
have 10 kids one day.
Yeah, like they have to take care of all these kids one day, and like they in all these situations they complain. They're like, oh, I need help, or like
my arm hurts.
My boss is really being mean, or I don't get paid what I'm supposed to for this. And then the teachers just say, no one gives a shit. And it just kind of prepares them for actual life.
Yeah.
They just walk in class, they're like, you know all those things that schools taught you up to this point about you being special and like, you know, like the world's just going to fall in place for you? No, none of that's real. Nobody gives a fuck.
You could even like... Yeah, it would be such a good... It's a good idea. I really do think it is. Of course, you could dumb it down so it's not so vulgar, but I think, especially with any kind of, like, menial job, like a restaurant or some kind of, you know, mindless work that most people do. Like, there's a ton of part-time work out there. Mm-hmm. Jobs like that, like at the restaurant, your mustard is not that important.
Right.
Nobody gives a fuck if your burger doesn't have the right amount of pickles on it. You know, even if it's just small shit like that, like they need that wake up.
Well, I've got 2 points about that. So, one, Bo Burnham's kind of got a part of his specials about that where he's like, you know, the 90s was a real cult of personality where, you know, we're told, oh, everything you say matters. You know, you are special, you are important, which is, you know, was a good thing because, you know, we all were raised in that kind of environment, or at least, you know, I was to a degree. But then you do wake up, you grow up and you're like, you know, it doesn't matter at all. Like, nothing I say, no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
and it's kind of hard to come to that realization because, you know, you kind of understand when you go to college, but I feel like as we've gotten older, I really have realized, you know, we're not special. We're just some people
no. It can lead to a lot
college and now we're adults in the real world and we're nothing more than a tax number to some people.
Yeah, and I feel like our generation of parents, specifically the 20 to 30-year-old, our parents didn't teach us simple life things. I guess they assumed we would learn them in school like they did. Because to this day, I can't tell time very well. Like, I have trouble, just a clock without numbers. I have trouble. I have to sit there. And that might just be that I'm slow. But no one really taught me how to do it. So I still, to this day, have to take a little extra time just to count on a clock.
Oh, knocked him off.
And then...
He fell off.
You fell off, too.
No, I didn't.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Oh.
You smash brother.
Well...
I'm not a warlock. I can jump back. Sorry, I didn't mean to...
No, you're
okay.
fine.
I just feel like our parents didn't really prepare us for the physical world. And so not only were we led to believe that we're special and that can lead to a lot of like depression, but also we weren't taught how to survive. So for one, we think we're special and then we get a dose of no, we're not. And then we weren't taught how to just live. So not only are we just mentally messed up, physically we're confused. So it just leads to a generation of people who are like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Do you think being raised like that has anything to do with the way that we are? Like specifically me and you, Chelsea Face. Like we were talking about the other day, like most people, they go out and they go to bars and they spend their, like they work at a job and then they get the money and they go out and they drink it all and they, you know, and they buy a few nice things and then that's the end of it. Whereas we're like, we gotta save this money, we gotta put this into our business, we gotta open up 3 different businesses at once, and then we gotta like do all, you know.
We never had a party stage.
Yeah, we're very business minded, and it's weird because we're not that old. Like I started my business at 24. And Chelsea Faye started her years ago, probably when she was like 22 or so.
Yeah.
And maybe earlier than that. And I mean, it's just kind of weird to think about. I still don't feel like a quote unquote small business owner. Like it's really weird to think about. But
Yeah, it is.
that's what, like, I'll see advertisements where it's
'Cause
like,
I've never really thought of you as a small business owner, to be honest. Like, not no offense.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, well, you're my buddy. You don't really, and see, I don't think about like my students as clients either. Like, I am way too buddy. Like, I try to watch myself, but I get way too buddy with my
Man,
students.
I feel you on being too buddy with your students.
Oh,
Sometimes
yeah.
it's hard to draw that line between,
Especially
I want
when you're
you
so
learn
close
and
to their
I want to
age.
be like an authoritarian figure to you, but I don't want you to hate me like I had teachers that were mean to me for no reason.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because, you know, they had like one bad student in the class. Like, you know, I didn't want to be that teacher, but sometimes like it's hard to find that right balance. Because
Oh,
some
yeah.
students will take advantage
And that's
of your
that.
niceness.
Yeah.
It's more of a problem in my kids' class. Like, my kids' class, like, I try so hard to have a good time because I want my kids to have a good time when they're in there, because I want them to go and be like, oh, karate's awesome, and I want to, you know, tell their friends, and then they bring their friends, whatever. But, you know, the whole point is that they're supposed to be learning discipline and all this other stuff. And you
I
know,
think you're doing well with that. I think that, you know, you do have one that's a little younger than you normally would take in. And it's a boy.
Yeah.
So
he is insane.
he's real rambunctious. He can't control his bladder and his verbal, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, there was a really cool moment in class the other night. I kind of want to talk about it. There was a moment. Okay, so I have two kids in my kids class right now. One's name is Luke, and the other one's name is Daniel. Luke is a 5-year-old white boy, and Daniel is a 8-year-old.
Are you sure he's 8? I thought he was like 10.
He might be 10. He's in 3rd grade, whatever that would be. So
third grade would be like 8 or 9.
8 or 9. Okay. Well, Luke and him were doing one steps, and for one steps you have to partner up. So I had them partnered up and whatever, and we're getting ready to go, and just not like out of nowhere,
Like a 5-year-old.
like he just goes, he looks at Daniel and he's like, "You're black and I'm white." And Daniel just kind of looks at me, and I look at him, and I'm like, he's right. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, yeah, I mean, you're right.
It's interesting that Daniel looks to you.
Yeah.
Like, what your reaction was going to be.
Yeah, because I didn't want to be like, oh, you can't say that, because he's not wrong. Like, he's absolutely right. That's a factual statement.
You shouldn't make it a thing that they're scared to talk about.
You should not be scared of race. And I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot of white people who are super scared to talk about race, and I think it's pathetic. You should never,
Like,
ever
they'll
assume
always-
someone is a lower quality of human being based on the color of their skin, but at the same time, it's stupid to pussyfoot around and be like, what? We're not different. Like, yeah, you got different colored skin. I mean, that's all there is, but that's what you have. So, I mean, why is it so
It's no
weird
different
to
from,
talk about?
Yeah, it's no different from knowing someone with blue hair.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's just something that they have, and you can talk about it. I mean, you don't need to make fun of them or treat them differently, but, you know, tattoos, hair, all that stuff. And it's just fascinating that he looked to you like, what's he gonna do?
Yeah, I was like, oh God, this is a big moment. I have to figure out what to say here.
Well, so in some of the teaching classes that I had, and some other classes as well through college, what we talked about was, you know, identifiers of stuff like that. You know, black, white, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It can be important to make sure you identify them before you identify them as their
I'm sorry, can you
race or
repeat
as
that?
their
You're
gender.
cutting up just
Like,
a
you
little
wanna
bit.
Say, huh?
Can you repeat that last thing?
That I would always try to emphasize to identify them as a person before you identify them as their race or as their gender.
Oh yeah, that
You know,
makes
you would want
sense.
to say stuff like, you know, the person who is black over there, or the person who is a girl, stuff like
Okay.
that. You know, does that make
So
sense?
you wouldn't say that black girl. You'd say that person over there who is black. That is a girl.
Yeah, something to that degree, and it doesn't roll off the tongue as well. And I mean, you know, and it depends on the context, because
It makes sense though, because the label is secondary to the fact that they are an individual.
Yeah. And,
I mean-
that's the main thing that you really want to try to get across most time when you are using race or gender as an identifier, because you don't want that to be who they are, or
Right.
make them feel that's who they are.
Right. I mean, that makes total sense.
Yeah,
I never
that's-
thought about it that way, but
Yeah,
it makes sense.
That's a very good way to think about it.
It's a way that doesn't single out anything.
Welcome to the SJW podcast, everyone.
Shut up.
Well, and I am not an SJW. Like I can be offensive at times, whether I mean to be or not. But especially being a teacher, I do try to reel myself in and to think, okay, how do what I say affect other people? How do they view me because I say it? Am I a positive role model? Am I being someone that's worth looking up to, or am I just spouting out hateful stuff?
Yeah.
I don't understand why people have to attach these labels to themselves instead of just talking about the issues themselves and how they feel about it. Because it's all these, like, you take all these super sensitive issues, which I cannot answer in one word. Like, there's no way I could answer them in one word. And then you stack them by, like, 15 or however many big issues there are. And then, which it could be countless, and then you take that and then you make that all into one single word or a few words, like I'm a Republican, or I'm a Democrat, or I'm a left-leaning libertarian, or something. Like, that's insane to me to do that, because it's like, I'll tell you how I feel about this, that, or the other, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm a this, because that flips so many switches to one side when it's like, it's so much more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And see, I think that's the other side of that coin, whereas, I don't want to identify someone as just one identifier. A lot of times people do they only identify as one or two things and really section themselves off from the group of we're all people, and instead they're, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat.
See, that's why I don't like that's why I don't like Tumblr. Like, I love Tumblr sometimes. Like, there's some really funny people on there, and I don't know, there's really cool art and stuff, and I love that kind of stuff, but I hate it whenever it becomes like a labeling contest, and I feel like that's what it becomes a lot of the time. It's just like, I'm a this, that, this, that, and it's like, what?
But you can get away from there. Like, I'm a Tumblr-er, I guess.
Tumblr.
Yeah, I guess, because I just don't like Reddit's layout pretty much. But
I understand that.
Yeah, Reddit's layout kind of sucks.
Simple.
Tumblr's just easier for me to navigate. I don't get on there as much as I used to, but I do prefer it. But you can get out of those. Like, I've had friends who post that bullshit about 5 million different terms that no one's going to remember. And I'm cool with calling you what you want to be called, but you gotta chill, just like Patton Oswalt says.
Yeah, Patton Oswalt has a really good joke about it.
You just gotta chill. You gotta give me the name. Don't expect me to remember 1,000 terms. I never did very well in history. What makes you think I'm gonna remember this? Okay, so
somebody like a year or so ago made a Reddit post actually kind of explaining the current Tumblr climate and like the kind of people that are on there. And a big part of it, and he was talking about fan fiction at the time, but I think this kind of relates to just about anything that is talked about on Tumblr, is that there's not, or at least, I don't use Tumblr that much, so Chelsea, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong or anything, but that with it, there's not so much like different message boards for every single topic you want to talk about. All the topics kind of get thrown together, and so you're just kind of expected to just know everything.
You kind of have to fall in line, or else you're going to get shouted at too.
Yeah, it's not like subreddits. It's not like separated.
Section off.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, because that's what he had said.
It's either all or nothing.
I don't use Tumblr, but I assumed he was right.
Yeah, imagine
it's just one big message board. Like,
you can get away from it, but you have to be willing to unfollow those people.
Yeah.
Like, I've got at least 2 friends who I love everything they post, but then every once in a while they'll post something that's just completely ignorant. I mean, the most ignorant liberal thing you've ever heard in your life. Like, I know that sounds so contradictory, but it's like the
I mean, there's
it's
ignorant.
the opposite spectrum of liberal. Yeah.
There's ignorant conservatives. There's ignorant liberals. I mean, if someone asked me what I was, like, they held a gun to my head and it's like, you have to pick something, I'd be like, I am left leaning. Like, I guess, like, if I had to pick one, but you know,
still pushing it.
Like, like, that's still just like, I just don't like putting a label on it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, ask me about the issue. Ask me, how do you feel about gun rights? How do you feel about abortion? How do you feel about this and that?
That's what I was gonna
I'll
say.
tell you.
socially I'm more liberal, but I could be open up to some conservative economic ideas.
Oh,
if
yeah,
if
economically, yeah.
conservatives weren't so crazy about their social ideas at times.
Yeah, it's just a big
'Cause
mix
I feel
of mush.
afraid to vote in for any conservatives in the country half the time because I'm afraid they're going to fall in line.
They're going to
with
take away
Trump.
people's rights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's not what I want, you know? Like, and I hate to just vote, you know, if there's a D next to the name, but it's getting to the point where I feel like if there's an R next to their name, they're not in the best interest of the country.
Well,
they don't have the best interest in me sometimes.
I mean, I think the three of us can agree that the latest R, I don't really feel like is an actual R.
No,
I feel like it's a
the
crazy
latest
man
Rs
with
are-
crazy hair doing crazy things, and just really
He's a
just
cult
ripping
personality.
off this entire country to make some money. Like
It's a
that's
joke.
Yeah, it's just a big joke. That's all it is. And I mean, I'm sorry if that offends you if you're listening to this, but
I'm not sorry.
It's really bad. I don't understand how
I hope it
people
offends
could.
you.
I don't understand how people were like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
let's-
vote that man in.
Let's stop talking about it, please.
Okay.
I think this year has flown by very fast, and I'm excited because that means I haven't been thinking about it as much.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm just ready to get it over with.
For me, politically, this year has been going by so slow.
Oh man,
I think
But, I mean,
it's been
like,
going fast for us
I
because we just
I will
work
say
all the
this,
time.
though.
yeah.
I think our newest president is going to be good for our country overall because I was always kind of part of politics, but in this past year, I have gotten full blown like so much more into it than I used to be. Like I try to keep up with everything. I try to at least know somewhat of what's going on. You know, who's really here for our country and who's here for just the party that they serve.
Right.
And I really hope that other people
Other
are doing
people,
as
so that
well.
when the next election comes around, people actually know what they're voting for. And that's kind of how it is. The point I was trying to get to with the small business owner thing, too, is like, because I don't know about you, but I know nothing about the local politics around where I live.
Oh no.
I know literally jack. And man, like, it's so funny because there was an ad in the paper that was like, it was like, I helped, it's like, under my leadership, 200, like 500 new small businesses open. And I knew that my business opened in the time that he was there. You know, it's like it just opened like a year ago. And I was like, I don't know you. I don't know what
Right,
you did.
didn't-
Like,
you didn't
I don't
influence this for
He
me.
didn't influence nothing. Like,
Yeah.
why are you using me right
has
now?
nothing to do with you.
So that was kind of weird.
We live in a shit town, so
Oh, it's real bad.
yeah. So
Trust me, I know.
So our politics, literally, if it's like a drama every day. Something crazy's happening. You don't even want to know.
So speaking of towns and living places, so we watch a couple of YouTubers called Jenna Marbles and Julian. I don't know his last name.
Solomita.
Oh yeah, Solomita.
Mita. Solomita.
Solomita. Anyways, so these two, they're pretty famous. Jenna's more famous than Julian, but Julian's
yeah, 'cause I've
Julian's
heard
got
of Jenna
quite
Marbles.
a big following too. He just hit over 1 million.
I love them both.
And yeah, they're both really
They're precious.
really interesting.
They live together. They're a couple.
Hashtag goals, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, they're just really interesting to watch and funny. And I feel really bad for them lately because someone leaked, like, I can't remember exactly what happened. I think he's
From what Julian said in his vlog, okay, this is what I think what happened, okay? He had a guy deliver some food to his house because, you know, they have Postmates in California. And the guy brings him food and he recognized him and he started trying to network, and so he knows where they live. I think he might have leaked it somewhere. And so he had a kid show up with his mom saying, "Is this the street that Jenna Marbles lives on?"
and he starts freaking out. And he's like, "No, like, you can't
Get
be
out.
here. Like, get away from here. Like,
They
what are you
have
doing?"
worked so hard to keep where they live a secret.
I know that would scare me.
Because she is so famous.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
pretty. She's been famous for a long time, and she's
Oh, yeah.
pretty high up there.
And she's very beautiful, so that's dangerous. That's a dangerous combination for her. And, you know, he's pretty famous too now. He's gotten up there, and we were just talking about how terrifying and awful that is. And he was telling the mom, "You can't do this. You cannot drive your kid to some stranger's house and make it okay."
Yeah.
Like, you've got
Like,
to
that's
teach
not-
your kid that you can't do that.
I mean, I could totally see myself as a kid doing that.
If you saw a video,
I could totally see myself
But you
as a
don't know
kid being
any better.
like, yeah, because as a kid, I could totally see myself being like, oh, I watch these people on YouTube. Oh, they live here. Let's go. You know, like I could. But then, as an adult, as you get older, you should start learning those critical thinking skills and being like,
Yeah.
oh, well, if I was this famous, I wouldn't want random strangers showing up at my house all the time.
mom should have had the fucking common sense to, because if they had made a video saying, oh, it's okay, bring your kids, then I would have been like, okay, well, we'll go. There's obviously a party going on. They allow people to come to their house, just like that Jake Paul dude.
Uh-huh.
He was cool with kids coming to his house. I don't see a problem with that. If he said it's okay.
I see a problem if you take your kid to Jake Paul's house.
No, I'm just saying, like, I get it.
Yeah.
If everyone's doing it and they've okayed it, then
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with it as long as they're supervised. But for people to just assume it's okay to show up at somebody's house, that's fucking stalker.
That they don't deserve privacy.
Yeah,
like,
it's very strange. Yeah, like they're zoo animals or
and
something.
I worry about them, you know? Like, that's scary. Like, that's terrifying. I don't know. Like, it just blew my mind to see that. And it bothers me still.
Oh, you know, after a while, we'll have to worry about stuff like this.
Oh, yeah, we'll be
'cause, you
so
know,
famous.
We're so famous. It's so great.
People are gonna be beating down y'all's doors.
No.
Yeah.
Let me in that tiny apartment. So,
Let me pet your cat.
Yeah.
is that a green screen? That's so fancy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the moral of the story is,
Just don't be a dumbass.
yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
Right?
So-
Don't be a dumbass.
A lot of storms and a lot of bad things been going on lately, right? The Irma, Harvey, earthquakes.
Maria.
What?
Maria's coming up.
Oh yeah, Maria's
God.
coming. So
It's
like
already I don't know if it's past
Jose
it, but I
came
know
through
it's-
too.
Oh yeah.
So I mean that's 3 hurricanes and a tropical storm that hit the coast. And I mean, do you think that all of this has any part to do with the global warming?
Like
I know none of us here really know for sure because we're not meteorologists or scientists, but
I'm not
just
informed
snowballing it
enough
here.
to say that it is global warming, but I mean, I'm not saying that global warming isn't a thing, because it definitely is. But I don't know enough about the sciences and the information to know if all these hurricanes are truly caused by global warming. I will say it does feel like we're getting more each year, because so 2005 we had Katrina, but this
Uh-huh.
year it feels like we've already had 3 Katrinas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's pretty crazy. I just think about, like you said, I'm not an expert. I'm just saying, I just want us to kind of snowball, kind of our opinions, even though they're not, no one should take our opinion as fact at all. But I could totally see it. I know that a small thing can ripple into a big thing. And I know that the weather, and the reason that the weather is so weird on the southeast part of the country is because of the climate coming in off of the ocean, right? The climate comes in off the ocean, and it mixes with warm air over the country. And that's why, Tennessee and, Mississippi, Kansas, all that's Tornado Alley, Mm-hmm. And it's just a perfect storm, if you will, of of just climates and like that weird shape that the Gulf of Mexico is, like the coast of Mexico makes that little scoop, and it makes it, and when it hits that warm air, it just continues that circulation and gets more rapid, and it just becomes bad stuff.
I think it's a global conspiracy that we're the only country who gets tornadoes.
Yeah, Chelsea Face does not understand why we are the only country that gets tornadoes.
I understand it's the shape of the Gulf, the weather, blah, the warmth, the cold. I get how tornadoes happen, but I still think it's bullshit that we're the only ones who get them. Like, could you imagine moving here from like Argentina or like Sweden or
Right.
anywhere and just being like, what the fuck is that?
It's the end of days.
Yeah, you would think it's some biblical shit happening.
That's another topic that
I
we'll
hope
probably
they
talk
teach
about on another
about
day.
tornadoes. I hope they teach them about those things.
I mean, I'm sure they do. I mean, we learn
whoa.
about tsunamis, and we don't live anywhere around tsunamis, so.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm sure they know what it
Like,
is.
how did I get born in the country that has the thing I'm most terrified of?
Well, you're most terrified of it because you're around it.
But I would still be terrified of it if I knew what it was.
I don't know. I would debate that it's a social thing.
I don't know. Look at all the other disasters. Okay, you got volcanoes. Just don't live near a volcano.
Right?
End of situation.
Cool.
Okay, hurricane.
Uh-huh.
Move away from areas.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about a tornado. Move away from a tornado.
Yeah, but
There's only one place on Earth that has them.
no,
Yes, that's what you just said.
a whole country.
No, it's the Tornado Alley.
The whole
It's like
country's kind of going down the shitter at this point.
Yeah,
anyway.
you got a point. I just feel like out of all the natural disasters, it is the one that you.
Thanks, Trump.
You can't detect it. It can drop down anywhere.
yeah.
We don't really get hurt.
I mean, you can kind of detect it. You can say like, oh, this is a cell that could produce a tornado.
Like the winds are at
guess,
the right
but-
temperature kind of deal.
I don't know. I just. Feel
I mean,
like,
they can't know for sure until it draws.
and
but
they're
you
not
can
gonna
kind
know
of-
exactly where it's gonna hit, and I don't know, man. I just feel like it would be the most scary.
I feel like it comes right over where I work a lot, like way too much for my liking.
Oh, and I was saying the other day, if you're in a field where there's no trees, no homes or nothing, just say your house is in the middle of a field and you can't see anything in any direction, okay?
Uh-huh.
Just hypothetical.
Okay.
Out of all the natural disasters, you're more likely to get hit by the tornado.
Okay.
Like a volcano,
Well, see, and-
you know, you could get away from it. Just run.
It's weird that you say that you're scared of tornadoes because I've kind of just grown up with them my whole life, and for me it's just the tornado. Like
That's kind of how they are in
cause
Kansas.
damage.
Kansas, they'll see a tornado and they'll be like, "Oh, look."
Oh, it's only a category 4.
Yeah, it's fine.
Ugh.
I don't know if tornadoes are categorized
Yeah, I
that
don't
way.
know what they're
They're categorized as F1,
F1
F2.
to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just same as everything else. But threat of them, I was begging to go to the storm house. I mean begging, because we didn't have one at my house.
Right.
I was crying. I was so scared. Please, can we go to my aunt so-and-so's house?
Please.
And they're like, no, not unless we're already dead.
When you're dead, you
Literally,
can go.
the tornado had to be above us for them to go. And I'm just like, well, we're dead already. We're dead. We're just dead.
You just let the tornadoes win.
Yeah.
Is that what you want? You just give them whatever they want.
I'm going to have nightmares about tornadoes now.
I had a nightmare about getting my brain removed after watching Get Out the other day.
Oh, I still haven't seen that, so don't spoil it too
Oh,
much.
Okay.
it's so good, man. You got to see
It is it's the funniest horror movie I've ever watched. Like, it's so good. We watched that and we watched Logan. And man,
Yeah.
both of those were really good
Killer movies.
for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I-
We saw Logan in theater, and Logan is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hits
I
all the
hadn't
right
even-
buttons for an R-rated comic movie.
And I had never seen any of the X-Men movies, so I enjoyed
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
'cause
saying.
they
Like,
didn't-
it had so much more of an impact for me because I saw these characters that I've known for a very long time, but they were just in such a different light now. Like, it was.
And it was the same actors. What was even the crazier part? Because they could
Yeah.
have played it even safer and just been like, oh, we don't want to devalue the characters that are already here. So you can do the movie, but you can't have our actors. You got to recast.
Especially,
They just went straight
especially
for
Professor X. Like,
Yeah, Professor X was such a great character in that movie.
oh yeah, it's fantastic. If you haven't seen Logan, go torrent it. I mean, go
think-
buy it or rent
You
it.
can Redbox
Yeah,
it.
you can Redbox it.
Between-
yeah.
Between Logan and Deadpool, I think we're starting to get more of a push that R-rated movies can sell and make money.
Yeah, we're growing up with it. Like, people who read comic books are now older. And we're like, we'll give you the money if you make the thing good.
Right.
Mhm.
and they're figuring that out.
But my fear for this is that they'll go too overboard with it and turn every movie R-rated, whether it needs to be or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fear I have too.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Because just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
we aerosolized cancer. All about coulda, not shoulda. Okay. Well, we have gone over by 10 minutes, but I allowed that because you were about 10 minutes late. So,
Fair.
so yeah, thanks for watching the We Play Games podcast.
Or listening.
Or listening. We will be back next Friday playing more games and talking about more stuff and things. So, please subscribe or follow or do the thing where you can keep on participating whatever platform you're watching or listening
However
this
you
on.
participate best is up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just want you back. So, yeah, thanks so much. We're trying to get this thing off the ground, so if any help is greatly appreciated. I really love podcasts. We've had a radio show at the university we went to when we were in college, and we called it The Show About Things, and we did it every week, and we really loved it. And so this is
We were
just
sad when it ended.
yeah. So this is just kind of the continuation of that. So any supports helps. And Gavin, it's awesome having you on, and I'm guessing we will continue to have you on later if you wish.
Oh yeah, man, I enjoyed this.
Awesome. Well, we will see you around, man, and see you guys later. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.